Hello, it is great to have you with us. Welcome along to Ireland AM. Now, yesterday, if you didn't know, after weeks of leeks and onions and carrots and turnips.
We were trying to get him to do a vegetable pun.
Sorry, Stephen, store manager there. He gave me that joke. Budget 2023 was revealed yesterday.
We have to find the fun somewhere, lads. All morning, we do want to get your reaction to the budget. What do you reckon? Did it do something for your pocket, or are you like, no, I'm going to be way less up and I'm worried about what's going to happen in the next few months? We'd love to hear from you this morning. It's 0896 111 111. You can also comment on Tommy's terrible joke if you want to.
Or this, coming up very shortly, we're going to be joined in the studio by the Tánaiste Leo Varadkar. He's going to be here to dissect the record €11 billion package.
We'll also be finding out what this year's budget would mean for you and your family, because I never have a clue. I sit there the next day with the paper and it's all this. So we're going to do a budget calculator in just a little while.
And for something completely different,
yes.
Birds of a Feather star Lesley Joseph is going to be here to tell us about starring in Sister Act the musical and the time she ended up blessing the Pope. Can you believe that?
She's always working. She takes her roles really seriously. She was in character. What are you meant to do, you know? Bless you, my child. Alan, what have you got coming up this morning?
Pope, no less.
Bless the Pope.
We're looking forward to hearing about it.
Which Pope? Because she's very old.
Francis. What?
She's not here yet. It's okay. She's not watching yet.
Oh, sweet mother of God.
Leslie, apologies.
Sorry, Leslie.
He shot to fame on Britain's Got Talent. Welsh tenor Paul Potts will be here to tell us about his new album and the movie that was made of his life, starring James Corden, no less. Plus, there he is in action, plus Duffy's Circus. They're going to be here later on, and they're recruiting myself and Tommy as some of their new performers. So you want to stick around for that.
A couple of donkeys. They allowed...
Eating fire.
Eating fire, maybe fire eating, throwing swords, throwing knives, whatever. Now, Deric is in Bray this morning and he's getting reaction to this year's budget. Good morning, Deric.
Yes, Al, it's another chilly start out there this morning. Again, that mixture of sunshine and scattered showers retreating through parts of the west. But as you mentioned, Al, following yesterday's €11.1 million bonanza budget, we're live here in Bray, County Wicklow. We're going to be getting live reaction here on the ground for people and passers-by, as well as chatting to one local entrepreneur and finding out how budget 2023 affects his business.
Great stuff, Derek. And,
is that your budget coat?
I know, he looks very smart this morning. If you're getting a bus to or from Bray this morning, make sure you call in and say hello to Derek.
You did.
OK, thanks very much, Derek. It's going to be a busy old show, but now let's get the news with Anne O'Donnell.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. Well, government has announced a record €11 billion budget package in a bid to tackle the cost of living crisis and rising energy costs. Well, budget 2023 featured tax changes, increases in core social welfare payments, energy credits, childcare reliefs and a cut in college fees. Here's more from our political correspondent, Gavin Riley.
No major hitches as the Dáil held its first budget votes last night. The price of 20 cigarettes has gone up by 50 cents since midnight, but otherwise it was all plain sailing on votes to extend lower VAT for energy, lower excise for petrol and diesel and the likes, all of that passing without much of a hitch last night. And in truth, as the Dáil debated some of these budget measures, the response was a little bit flat. There was as much complaint about so many measures being pre-leaked as there were about the substance of the debates themselves. If anything, there is one vulnerability in this budget, and that is the fact that many of the measures don't really take effect until early in the new year. For those receiving welfare allowances, for example, yes, there may be lump sums or double payments between now and Christmas, but will the €12 that they're expecting in the new year be enough to truly help them deal with the higher cost of living? It might only be then that we can truly assess whether this budget has achieved its stated purpose. Other than that, though, for now, the government appears to have gotten out the gap without any major controversies in its lap.
A young girl remains in a critical condition in hospital this morning after being discovered at a house in County Clare yesterday. A woman was also found unconscious inside the property. Gardaí have since launched an investigation into the incident.
Well, an investigation is continuing today into that very serious incident that occurred at a house in Clare Castle, just on the outskirts of Ennis yesterday morning. When Gardaí and emergency services arrived at the scene, they discovered a little girl with very serious injuries. She was rushed to University Hospital Limerick and she remains there in a very critical condition. A woman was also discovered unconscious inside the house. She was also brought to UHL and she too remains in a critical condition. Now, an incident room was established at Ennis Garda Station. A senior investigating officer officer was appointed to head up the investigation, and a family liaison officer was also appointed to the family. Officers from the Divisional Scenes of Crime Unit examined the house throughout the day yesterday. Gardaí have been conducting their own inquiries. They will continue today. No arrests have yet been made, but they are appealing for anyone with any information to contact them at Ennis Garda Station or on the Garda Confidential line on 1800 666 111.
Well, parts of Florida are already feeling the effects of Hurricane Ian. At least 2 tornadoes touched down, damaging several aircraft and a few hangars at Broward County Airport. Well, tornadoes associated with hurricanes can occur hundreds of miles from the centre of that storm. Well, it comes after the same powerful hurricane tore through Cuba, leaving the entire island without power. A trail of destruction has been left, particularly in the western region. It has already sparked mass evacuations there and in Florida. The hurricane is now nearing the US coast, where Floridians in Tampa are bracing for major flooding.
In the case of Hurricane Ian, it is going to be moving quite slowly when it comes on shore. So you do see very impressive rainfall totals forecast, a pretty large swath of 10 plus inches of rain indicated for the Tampa metro area. So that's going to be obviously very significant.
To Ukraine now, where pro-Moscow authorities have claimed that residents in all 4 occupied areas of Ukraine voted to join Russia in referendums. The US and its Western allies have dismissed the referenda as illegitimate, while the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky described them as a farce in his nightly address last night. Well, the announcement is likely to prelude annexations, possibly within days.
This farce in the occupied territory cannot be even called an imitation of referenda. We knew in advance what would be drawn instead of the result. Even the intelligence services didn't have to work very hard. The agreed figures for this farce were given to the media.
For car insurance, van insurance or home insurance, call the Quote Devil. Unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
Thank you, Joe, and a very good morning to you at home, or if you're watching online on the Player. We're coming to you live here from Bray in County Wicklow this morning. We're going to be getting live reaction from locals here on the ground to Budget 2023, yesterday's announcement. So if you're in this neck of the woods, do pop by and let us know your thoughts. Anyway, an opening look at weather together now with Joe McKenna on cameras this Wednesday morning. I have to say it's quite a fresh, quite a chilly, and in fact quite a blustery start. We are seeing showers through parts of Donegal into Derry and Tyrone, also up around Sligo into North Leitrim and parts of Kerry, not escaping either, so keep the rain gear handy there. But elsewhere it is holding dry with brighter breaks now beginning to kick through, but quite blustery in that northwesterly airflow. Now right across the day as we work away into your Wednesday, again it's that mixture of sunshine and scattered showers. Now the good news is that rain will retreat into parts of the west, an improving picture towards the back end of the day, but again feeling quite chilly in that northerly airflow, top values of about 11 to 15 degrees. Finally then tonight it will dry out for most areas, those winds easing back. Now once again we're going to see some patchy mists and fog develop under those almost calm conditions, and an air frost can't be ruled out as well, because it will be quite a cold, quite a chilly night in store, with values back to about 3 to 7 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here in Bray in County Wicklow at the moment. Come back to us live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote.
Coming up after the break, the Tánaiste Leo Varadkar joins us to discuss this year's budget.
We've been getting a reaction from you for the last few weeks, everything you've been talking about, and even this morning we're going to be talking about the issues that you've been texting in about. That's on the way on Ireland AM.
Great to have you back. The long-awaited budget 2023 was announced yesterday, but has it got something for everyone in the audience?
You've always wanted to say that. Joining us to discuss is Tánaiste Leo Varadkar. Tánaiste, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Kevin.
We'll jump straight in. The government has been accused of failing to protect renters because the threshold says it predicts a catastrophic winter due to the lack of measures for renters. We've got the €500 tax relief this year, and then next year. Private landlords are leaving the market. What are renters going to do?
Well, first of all, what the budget budget is designed to do is to help everyone with the cost of living, including renters. It's about putting more money in your pocket. It's also about reducing some of the bills that you have to pay, like childcare or putting a kid through college or school. So the measure that's in place for renters is only one. You know,
Why
renters
didn't
are
you
also.
introduce a tax? Why didn't you introduce a rent freeze, a 3-year rent freeze?
Well, we do have rent caps, so you can only increase rents by 2%, and you know that benefits a lot of people. But I think the rent credit is actually being misunderstood. It is better than it sounds. It isn't 500 per tenancy; it's 500 per renter. So for a couple, it's 1,000. Say there's 3 people renting a house, it's 1,500, and you get it for 2 years. So in that case, it'd be 3,000. So for a lot of people, it will be a month's rent, or even more than a month's rent in some cases, and it does represent a big change.
But a rent freeze would make more sense. It would help more people over a longer term.
The difficulty with that is the law of unintended consequences. Anytime you try to control prices, you end up with less supply. So what we see in the rental market is not just very high rents. We also see a lack of availability of anywhere to rent. And you'll see queues of people looking at one property. And what's happened, and unfortunately this is one of the downsides of the 2% rent cap, it was 4, it's now 2, it's been in place for 7 or 8 years now, is landlords are actually leaving the market because there are more attractive investments now. You can, you know, for most landlords only own 1 or 2 properties. It's often a pension investment. They're now taking the money out, putting it into a rental property in a different country.
They're gone anyway.
I know they're not. They're leaving it in numbers, but
record numbers.
Far from gone. There's still
These rent
over 200,000
increases,
in the system.
You know, they barely match the increase we've seen this year alone. We'd imagine there's going to be another rent increase. I mean, we're seeing pictures of students camping out beside the road, beside universities in Dublin and in Galway. Like, it actually makes me think of Philly McMahon, the Dublin footballer we had on yesterday. His brother died homeless. He said there's 10,000 people who are homeless or in emergency accommodation at the minute. 3,700 of them are children. It's frightening. And when we think of the windfall taxes that are coming into this country, I think my own kids, the pressures we have, and they have a roof over their head. You know, is this, like, with your government, there's 3,700 children without a home, and there's more people going to fall into this because they can't afford rent.
Well, we don't know that's going to be the case. You know, I hope we'll see homelessness falling again over the course of the year. It was falling for quite some time, started going up again. You know, I think everyone understands that homelessness is a lot more complex than just building houses or money. There's lots of other factors at play.
Children, and to think that they don't have a fixed roof over their head, where does that, in a country like this?
Well, the solution is more supply. And in the past 12 months, 25,000 new homes have been built in Ireland. That's more than any year in 10 years. But we're catching up on a period when very few homes were built. One thing I didn't know until yesterday, and I was really heartened to hear it, in the past year, 15,000 people bought their first home for the first time. That's the highest in 15 years. Now, that's not enough. You know, it should be 20, it should be 25, it should be 30. But some of those things, you know, are starting to go in the right direction. It's not all bad.
And you're right. And we are building more homes for the first time in a very long time. But we did see just a couple of weeks ago, Bank of Ireland are tightening their rules in how they are going to lend, how they're going to give out mortgages. And, you know, that's a greater sign of what's happening economically, globally, I do think. And when it comes to it, for single people, it's almost impossible for some single people to get a mortgage with the prices. And we hear about the squeeze middle. But when it comes to single people in this country, it does feel like they are the forgotten generation because they are a hugely growing population and they can easily just pick up and emigrate. Just go, do you know what, there's nothing here for me. Do we forget about single people too much?
Well, it's definitely harder for single people to get by. You know, I lived alone for 14 years, thankfully with a good income, but, you know, you have to bear all the costs of running a house on your own without being able to share.
And every budget day, it's, you know, families, it's two kids and all this.
But we are doing things to help. Now, bear in mind, you know, that was always true and will always be true. It's always going to be harder for a single person to run a house than when you've 2 or 3 incomes coming in, and it's true in other countries as well. But there are ways we can help. One of the things we've brought in, one of the things we extended in the budget is the Help to Buy scheme. You can get €30,000 worth of back taxes to put towards your deposit. And also we've a new programme that's only come in the last few months. It's very popular. It's called First Home. So say you can get a mortgage for $250, but the house costs $320. The government will help bridge the difference, and the income limits are different for a single person to a couple. We've actually designed that in a way where it favours single people, reflecting the fact that it's harder to get by when you've only one income coming into the house.
You've extended the Help to Buy. You haven't exactly helped it. And for people who've already built a house, they're obviously they've got that built at the minute. But the fact that you put this brick levy on as well is going to add extra price onto it, because that's a new one that kind of snuck in under the radar, that, we want to build more houses, but everybody's going to have to pay more money to build the bricks.
So it's a 10-cent levy on concrete blocks to help with the micro and pyrite redress scheme.
Yeah, we do anticipate it will have a marginal impact on the cost of construction. That is the downside,
which is already huge.
But we've got thousands of families in Donegal and other parts of Ireland affected by mica. We're going to have tens of thousands of people.
That's not for everyone to pay for, is it?
Well, unfortunately, that's the world we live in. Things have to be paid for, so you have to socialise the cost of these things. If you didn't pay for it out of a levy on the construction industry, which is how it's being paid, you'd have to pay for it through increasing taxes on people, for example. So we've decided the fairest is not ideal, but the fairest way of paying for the repairs of the mica homes, and also a lot of apartments around the country that are going to need help from government to be repaired, that we decided the least worst way of doing that is a levy on the construction industry.
Like the crisis that in Ireland that is housing, you've been in government for 11 years. Do you put all the blame, can the government take a lot of this blame, or do you put the blame on external factors?
There's lots of different reasons why we have a housing crisis. Just look north of the border where we're not in government, house prices are up 20%, homelessness is 20,000. So,
but it's
we
the
see
shortage
these things
here at the moment.
Yeah.
This has been going on a long time.
I think it's the government's responsibility to fix the housing crisis, and that's what we're working on, and happy to go into some of the things we're doing to make that happen. The causes date back to a long time ago. They date back to the crash when the banks collapsed and the construction industry collapsed, and we've never really recovered since then. We were building 80,000 houses a year at one point. That industry collapsed. The banks which financed them also collapsed, and only now are we back up to 25,000. And there's lots of other factors at play. We've a massively growing population.
From 80,000
5.2 million people now.
Written 25,000 as well, yeah.
I'm going to move on to the tax ban now, because you have increased the higher tax ban to 40,000, and the average Irish income is at around 45,000 euro. So Fine Gael did promise, and this was an election promise, that people would hit the higher rate of income tax to increase that to 50,000. So this was something that was said just a few years ago. So why haven't we gotten to the 50,000 that was promised?
Okay, because we're only halfway through the government. So we've now got to the point where anyone earning 40,000 doesn't have to pay the higher rate anymore. 80,000 for a couple, and you only pay the higher rate on income above it. And that's a big change that we are very much in favour of. Too many people lose almost half their income in USC and PRSI and tax if you get a pay rise, or you do overtime, or you get an increment. We want to change that.
USC, which was a temporary measure.
Well,
originally.
it wasn't actually, but we can go back to that another time. But the target we've set is to get to the point where you don't pay the highest rate of income tax until you get to 50,000, and you only pay the highest rate on the income above that. After 3 budgets, we've got to 40, and we're going to press ahead and try and get closer to 50. Now, we didn't win an overall majority, by the way, so we have to compromise with others. But
and will you, over the next 2 budgets, try to make it to the 50?
We'll certainly make the case in government to do that, but we didn't win an overall majority. We're in a coalition. That was our policy. We're making very good progress towards it. Just that measure alone in this budget is worth over €800 to a single person, €1,600 to a couple. That's on top of the tax reductions we did last year. And they're not one-offs, they're permanent.
Now, we had Mary Lou McDonald sitting on this seat yesterday. You wouldn't be surprised to know that she was critical of some of the proposals that were being put forward. The big thing she was talking about energy, and they talked about the cap. Now, my big query is the profits of these electricity companies. Why has that not been introduced already? Because I gather you said yesterday you're looking at doing it. It's an EU thing. Yeah. But I mean, when you see the likes of Bord Gáis, they have 74% rise in operating profits. Energy, a 50% rise in profits. This should be done, should it not?
Well, we're going to do it. We're going to impose...
Before Christmas?
I would anticipate so, but let me explain the reasoning behind it. We're going to put a tax on those profits, and we're going to use the money to help reduce bills for families and for businesses. Why isn't it done? Because European law supersedes Irish law. They'll be meeting at the end of the month when we decide on the European law in this area. If we brought in an Irish tax, we could find out within weeks it's contrary to European law, that we'd have to repeal that law and bring in a new one. So it always makes sense that if there's going to be a European law, to get the European law right.
Is that slow in reacting from the EU side of things?
I don't actually think so, because bear in mind, profits are based on how much money you make in a year. So the windfall profits are being made.
It's pretty clear to see the profits that they're going to be making, even at the halfway mark.
Yeah, but you never charge a profit tax on the amount of money somebody makes halfway through a year, because in the second half of the year they might make fewer profits or even lose money. So it's always been the case that you tax.
It would encourage them to reduce the costs, knowing that they're going to get taxed on it.
Actually, no, because we have a very, very funny way as to how we price electricity in Europe, and this is a longer-term reform that needs to be made. So, because the way electricity is priced is based on the wholesale price of gas, that's why those profits are rising. Those companies never actually intended to make those profits. And what we intend to do is take them back off them and recycle that money to help families and businesses, particularly if we need to do more in the spring.
Listen, I'd love to talk to you about the standing charge, the €600 money that's going to be given for the energy tax, but we have to move on to healthcare. And, you've worked in health for a very long time, and you've extended the free GP card to more than 400,000 people. I'm sure there's people who are very, very grateful for that. But GPs are struggling to cope with demand. We have doctors who are emigrating. There was 390-something visas issued for doctors to Australia just last year. And we've spoken to GPs here. There is a lack of GPs. They can't get anyone to cover their time. And they are saying that with this extension of the free GP card, the waiting lists are going to be huge. We're going to see massive, massive queues. So where is the staff to help with this?
Yeah, well, first of all, what you said there was true, but what's also true is we've more doctors in the country than ever before. Don't ask me, ask the Medical Council. We have more GPs that have contracts with the government than ever before, and more doctors working in our health service than ever before. Now, that is against the backdrop of a rising population.
Yeah, you've worked in this system. So people you trained with, you must realise they're in a terrible situation at the minute, really difficult situation.
I was Minister for Health when we brought in the free GP care for the under sixes, and similar prophecies of doom were made. That there would be long waiting lists, that people wouldn't be able to get a GP. That didn't transpire. We've made a lot of progress in the last couple of years towards what we call universal healthcare. Ireland's unusual. People pay a lot of money.
So you're saying there's not the doom there at the moment?
No, I say there are problems, but we've had predictions before that if we extend free healthcare or reduce the cost of healthcare for people, that the entire system will collapse. I don't accept that.
We saw that system with the buses, the free bus passes. All of a sudden, we don't have enough drivers.
What we see,
it was a lovely gesture.
Well, we did a 30% reduction in public transport costs. That worked extremely well, and we've actually
the policy for the school buses.
The school bus demand was much greater than we anticipated, even though there's 21,000 more places.
And you would imagine GPs is going to be the same.
Well, that's why we need to do it right. We've already done a lot on healthcare. We've reduced the amount you pay in medicines every month to a maximum of €80 per household. We have the free GP care for the under sixes, for carers, for children with cancer.
But how do you make it attractive for doctors to stay in the country? Doctors and nurses, because Phil Hay yesterday from the INMO was like, staffing is the issue. More bed places. We need 7 nurses per bed.
Yeah, we have big problems recruiting and retaining staff in our health service. Wouldn't deny that for a second. We have more nurses in our health service than we have for a very long time, probably ever before. The same thing applies to doctors. You never hear that said, but that is a fact.
Yeah, a lot of recruitment drive in farm, going to other countries to recruit in rather than being able to retain people who have trained here in Ireland because they're like, I'm off.
Yeah, well, you have to do both. This is an internationally mobile labour force, and I worked in it, and people who work in the Irish Health Service come from all over the world.
Yeah.
That's true in England, that's true in Australia as well. It's a very, very mobile workforce because it's a very valuable qualification. That won't change. What we can do is continue to increase the number of people who are trained. So GPs, you mentioned, for example, we now train over 250 GPs a year. It was only 150 not that long ago.
Tánaiste Leo Varadkar, we're running out of time. Listen, thank you so much for coming in to talk to us. Really appreciate it. Great to have you with us.
Brought in the budget with him as well.
I know.
There's just us there. We didn't.
Listen, we'd love to hear from you at home.
Thanks for staying with us. Now, how much money will you have in your back pocket after Budget 2023?
I can never do this. Marian Ryan from taxback.com is here with her budget calculator. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Marian. Of course, there's lots of questions. Lots of people are trying to calculate. So currently, as it is right now, workers pay 20% on any income they earn up to $36,800, and then they pay $40,000 income tax. So what's changing? What are people going to get?
Yeah, so I suppose there's
40%,
a few...
not 40,000.
40,000, sorry, 40%. Sorry.
Well, it's increased up to 40,000, so it's an easy mistake to make there. So there's a few changes. So I suppose for kind of like every taxpayer out there, they've increased the personal tax credit by €75 and the employee tax credit. So that's €150 straight into everyone's pocket immediately there. It's regardless of how much you're earning throughout the year. And then the cut-off point, as you mentioned there, has been increased by €3,200 up to the 40,000 mark, which means that's another €3,200 that you're paying 20% tax on rather than the 40% tax. So that's €800 if you're a 40,000 euro earner, or if you're a family, if you're a married couple there, that's going to be €1,600 potentially in your pocket there. So it's really good. It's great. We would have hoped it would have been more, but...
So, yeah, because the thing is that one thing we didn't get time to put to Leo Varadkar, for an awful lot of people, and we're talking about social welfare and everything, inflation is eating up an awful lot of this, right? Because inflation is running at more than what a lot of people are going to get.
Absolutely. Like, I suppose, like, if we had got €800 as a single person this time last year in the budget, it would have been a bonanza.
Yes.
We would have been delighted with it. But, like, it's been eaten up by everything there.
8.5% inflation.
Yeah, so, like, there's single people saying to me in the last 24 hours that we've been forgotten, we haven't got what the families have got. Like, the real winners here, and I hate to say the word winners because I don't think there's any winners at the moment, but the people, this budget was really targeted for the squeezed middle income families with a couple of kids in childcare. Yeah.
They've been looking at this to try and make this happen for them for a long time. So then if you have a couple at home and they're earning maybe 40,000 each, so their combined salary is 80,000, how are they benefiting? Are they the real winners here? Yeah,
as I said, reluctant to say real winners, but yeah, they're going to come out better off. It'll be about €1,600 they will combine when it comes to tax, and that's not even taking into account the changes in the childcare subsidies, which could be a value of about €2,000 for them. That's the €1,600 is just taxation.
So that's the taxation that they're getting.
Yeah.
That if you've got a couple of kids in creche, because obviously they're bringing in
25%
with
reduction,
creche, and then they've got the free books for kids in primary school and all that.
And the €600 energy credit there. So there's a lot. They're targeted specifically.
So what do you think they might end up getting by, like, if you add all that up?
Well, if you have, say, two kids in creche, that's €4,000.
Right.
You have your €1,600 there from
your tax.
From the tax. So that's 5,500. Say, if we're just going to go roughly down, you're another €600 for your energy credit. So that's €6,000 there. Now I know
you're better off after yesterday.
Yeah.
So a married couple with two children earning about 80,000 a year are better off by about 6,000.
Yeah. Now, I hate to say the word better off because it is.
But I know what I mean. But they hadn't got that yesterday. They can now say this isn't. No, the cost of living crisis will ease into that. But that's €6,000 that they didn't have yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's over this year and next. Like the energy credit is 200 this year and 400 next year there, yeah, but you could say between €5,000 and €6,000.
It's just when you think about €11 billion, and I'm not bringing health into it, but for an awful lot of people, when it comes to the money they're meant to be getting back, it's just being eaten by inflation, like that for so many people. But so if we've got, let's take the situation where, and I know there are families like this, you've got one parent who works outside the home and one parent who works in the home. What's going to be the situation?
Yeah, so they're actually going to be a little bit less well off than the married couple that we just spoke of there with the combined income of €80,000. So they would have about $1,600 in tax, the married couple with the two incomes. With the one income, because they don't have the same level of a cut-off point, it's about €1,000. So there's €600 they're kind of less off. So it's a funny one there. Like, you've got the same family income, but because one of you is at home looking after the two kids that you have there. Now, they will benefit of the home carers tax credit. That was increased by €100 there yesterday. So they will benefit from that there. But they, like when we said €5,000-6,000 for the married couple with the two incomes, with the one income, you can nearly knock another €600
off that.
It's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
And we had Leo Varadkar there saying to us just a couple of moments ago that singletons who are on their own, they're really the ones that are probably not benefiting very much from this budget at all.
No.
And he admitted that.
Yeah, they weren't the target, per se, for it. They weren't the people that they were trying to help out. It would be kind of about €830 is what you will get in your tax. So that's within the changes of the cut-off points that I mentioned, the changes in the tax credits. I never mentioned there's a slight tweak to the USC rates as well, the bands there on that.
Yes. So you're getting a little bit more about it. They've reduced that.
Yeah, they increased the 2% band for people there. Basically, that was introduced because with the increase in the minimum wage coming in. They didn't want all that getting eaten up by USC there, so they've increased that slightly there, which has knock-on benefit, I suppose, for all taxpayers, not just the minimum wage workers. So they're the only benefits really that the single people are getting, unless you're renting and you're lucky enough to get the €500 rent.
Well, let's talk about the renters here. So let's take a couple who are living together, but they're not married, they're paying rent, they're hoping to get on the property ladder, which is what so many people are trying to do. How are things looking for that couple now?
Yeah, so they would be about, if we take into account the rent tax credit and everything, they'd be about €1,300 better off each when it comes to tax.
Because if you're there, you both get the €500.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing
both
with
get
rent.
It, right?
Yeah, so you both get this €1,000 you'd be getting towards the rent.
Okay.
And then if you add on your 830 that I mentioned for the single person, they don't get the benefit of the joys of sharing their tax credits and the rates and bands between them. But if they're on a combined income, say, of €100,000, they're both going to have used up their cut-off point anyway there, so there's nothing to be shared over and back between them there. But yeah, they'd probably be about €2,600 kind of better off as a combined, but €1,300 each.
Okay. Gotcha. What about pensioners who are on small private pensions? And what... I mean, we heard this yesterday, that it's disgraceful, the amount that they're only getting. And I know a lot of people were sort of saying...
Well, with the state pension,
Yeah, and alone. Just like, how are pensioners after yesterday's budget?
Yeah, so when we look at the tax side, like the state pension isn't taxable unless you have an additional pension on top. So say if someone has a small private pension of €4,000 on top of it there, when it comes to their tax, it's going to be about €600. They're going to be better off there last year. But I suppose the thing we've taken into account then, they're getting the additional fuel allowances. Hopefully they're getting the €12 increase in the pension and stuff like that. I know it's not a huge amount, but I suppose, again, they weren't the real target of the budget when it comes to taxation side of things. I think they'd benefit more from the social protection elements.
And just very quickly to mention carers, because I know Family Carers Ireland were looking at this and they were saying that an awful lot of these are once-off and they're not systematic, and they were worried about that because there's been changes to the rules around fuel allowance, which will address the anomaly affecting those in receipt of the half rate of carers allowance. So they are trying to bring in something there, but again, the carers weren't... and there's 500,000 home carers saving the government €20 billion for all of that. Now, people can... there is a budget calculator on taxback.com.
Yeah, we do, yeah. So we kind of, if your own circumstances, if you want to pop it into it there, if you text the word budget to 50400, put a few questions there. You married, you single, what's your income levels there, and we'll be able to come back to you and let you know what it would mean for yourself.
That's great.
Marian Ryan, Consumer Tax Manager at taxback.com, letting us know that singles are really valued, as always. Fantastic, isn't it, guys?
Up next, we're getting your reaction to Budget 2023.
Talk to you in just a few minutes. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline, Big Giveaway as Coalition Braces for Difficult Winter. The government unveiled an unprecedented €11 billion giveaway budget yesterday amid growing concerns about deteriorating economic conditions.
Record €11 billion thrown at cost of living crisis. That's the front page of the Irish Independent.
The Examiner leads with that same story. Their headline, record €11 billion budget to ease cost of living.
The Mirror goes with Girl 8 fights for age and neck stab horror. An 8-year-old and her mother were fighting for their lives last night following a horrific stab accident at their home.
This is so terrible. The Herald goes with that same story. Their headline, Ukrainian girl stabbed in neck multiple times.
Star leads with that. Girl 8 knifed in neck at home.
And back to the budget, taking the sting out of winter is a top story on the Daily Mail. Pascal Donoghue is hoping an €11 billion budget package, which puts money back in workers' pockets and helps to tackle rising energy costs, will soften the blow of this coming winter.
And finally, the Sun leads with Pascal's 11. The government yesterday raided the state's coffers and bet on an €11 billion budget to fight the cost of living crisis.
And of course, as you'd expect, so many texts coming in about the budget. Mary said, I'm a 70-year-old and I don't get the increases some old APs are getting. I was a clerical worker in the civil service. I get $250 per week. I'm not entitled to the fuel allowance or living alone allowance. Everyone thinks I'm going to do well out of the budget, but I won't. I think this should be highlighted.
A lot of people with other sort of pensions won't, like pensioners won't get anything. I was on my...
Why?
Because you're not entitled, like loads of pensioners aren't entitled. They're above the threshold for the fuel allowance, and that's what it is. Tom, once again, the middle income earner gets nothing. We would be better off giving up work. We get a medical card, extra welfare, fuel allowance, rent allowance, and back to school.
Now, we were talking about the middle income.
But
they are going to be better off.
But with the calculator, if you're earning €30,000, and this is what I hate, we're going middle income and then we're going people who perhaps get social welfare.
Middle income and stuff, yeah.
What is middle income anymore?
That's what we're saying.
And people were kind of going, if you're on 30,000, you'd be better off giving up work.
I want to just touch on this one that we said to Leo Varadkar. Micah said, why did the government expect young people trying to get on the property ladder to pay for the mica redress costs? The levy on ready mix and concrete blocks will add thousands to the price. So I think it is going to be, I don't know if it's capped at 2,000, but like you can see that as unfair. That people, like, we're trying to build so many more homes and all of a sudden they put a levy on bricks.
Do you know what's really depressing is that Leo also said, and there will be more. So they know that there are issues in the construction sector, and it isn't the people who are building who have to take the cost.
I was going to say that. Why weren't they all fined?
Because things happen and then the businesses go anyway.
Anyway. Listen, keep those texts coming in. We'd love to hear from you, please. 0896 111 111. We'll try to get through because there are a lot of them there. Now, still to come this morning, he captured the hearts of Britain's Got Talent fans. I love this guy and love this video. Welsh opera singer Paul Potts will be telling us about his new album.
And in the kitchen, Sarah Butler is serving up a budget-friendly chicken tarragon.
Plus, later on, Birds of a Feather star Lesley Joseph will be chatting.
Sarah, she was there, That wasn't the chicken tarragon. That was Sister Act, Lesley Joseph. Chicken tarragon.
Chicken tonight.
We'll be talking to Lesley Joseph about Sister Act. We'll talk to you in a while. Poor Sarah. Hello, welcome back to the second hour of Ireland AM.
Now, he's a Welsh opera singer that captured the hearts of TV viewers on Britain's Got Talent. We're going to be chatting to Paul Potts about his new album after 8 o'clock.
We've just been watching the moment that this happened, and I almost started crying.
It is, honestly, I remember being hungover on a Sunday morning watching this and getting all emotional.
Did you tear up?
Oh, probably.
It's beautiful. We're going to be talking to him in just a little while. Now, something else as well. The movie was a massive hit in the 1990s for Whoopi Goldberg, and now Sister Act, it has gotten a musical makeover. We'll be finding out what audiences can expect with one of its stars, Lesley Joseph. Look at her there.
Class. Can't wait to catch up with her. Now, Alan is in the kitchen. What's cooking, Al?
Yeah, I love Lesley Joseph. Now, Sarah Butler is back with us this morning, and we have a budget-friendly recipe. Good morning to you, Sarah. So what are you making for us this morning?
Today, I am making a creamy chicken tarragon with lovely homemade crispy wedges. A gorgeous family dinner.
OK, and so for a family, for four of us?
For a family of four, you're looking around €8 for this meal.
OK, nice. And nice and healthy as well.
Yes, got everything in there.
Cool, looking forward to that. Now, Deric is in County Wicklow this morning in Bray. How are you getting on, Deric?
Yes, Al, it's a dry and chilly start, but it's a nice, bright sunshine kicking through as we work our way now over the next couple of hours. Quite a mixed reaction here on the ground to Budget 2023. We're going to be catching up with a renter, a student and a pensioner, as well as a local business owner here on the ground. So lots to come here from Bray and County Wicklow over the next wee while.
The new a butcher, a baker and the candlestick maker is what they are.
And so many texts coming in about the budget. But listen to this one from Megan. She's a foster carer. And like so many people around the country who are foster carers. I've been left out of the budget again. I've been doing this job, which I absolutely love, for 14 years, and I've never received anything from each budget. We do this job because we absolutely love and care for all the children we have in our care. I'm so disappointed in the budget yet again, but we'll continue doing the job we do without the government's help.
So the foster carers allowance hasn't been increased since 2009. And
really?
Since 2009, they haven't gone near it, and also they're not eligible for the back-to-school clothing allowance. They're not. They're not eligible because if they don't have a child in their care, they don't know who's going to be there. It's not their permanent place of residence. So
but they're still looking after these children and paying all those expenses.
And there are less and less foster carers in this country. It has been steadily dropping, and the cost of putting a child into a residential care home, which we know is not the right place for a child to be, is huge.
And they could be getting loving care in these places.
So, Megan, absolutely fair play for doing what you do.
Noel, in the hospitality trade, why have the government punished bars and restaurants for the hoteliers' eye gouging? Tourism is a key part of the economy, and now we are going to be even less competitive.
You do sort of agree with that, do you? The small
hotels,
bars and places,
absolutely.
The hotels definitely gouging prices.
I'm just wondering, because there has been talk about hotels in certain areas ruining it for everybody else. If you're in the tourism sector, we'd love to hear from you. If you're a hotelier, what do you make of that? 0896 111 111 to let us know.
So
There's
frustrating.
so many. We'll get to as many as we can throughout the show.
Yes, we certainly will. Now, Deric is in Bray this morning getting some reaction from the locals there about Budget 2023.
Yes, Tim, we're getting live reaction here on the ground to Budget 2023 here in Bray. How are you feeling about the budget yesterday?
I think it's very little for the old people to live on and the people on social welfare, and I think they should bring down the cost of living. And as for the fuel crisis, something should be done. The government don't care about the poor anymore. They're looking after themselves.
And bills are through the roof at the moment, aren't they?
I think that they should have never gave, equal amount to the wealthy, like the ESB and things like that they should have divided more down for the energy bills, and they should have capped them.
Should have capped them as well. So there you have it, guys. The squeeze is being felt here on the ground in Bray. Back to you in studio.
Thank you so much for that, Deric, and we will be continuing to chat to Deric throughout the day.
And a lot of those texts coming in just backing up what those two ladies said as well. Now, coming up next, I'm really looking forward to this, tenor sensation Paul Potts. Of course, we saw him from Britain's Got Talent. He won it years ago.
Do you want to sing for us?
Opera singing sensation. We're back shortly. You might give us a rendition. Very welcome back to the show. Now, from being a manager in a phone shop to a platinum-selling singer, not bad going, is it?
No.
Britain's Got Talent winner Paul Potts proved that dreams really do come true.
And before we chat to Paul about his new album, we want to go back to where it all began. Because, Tommy, when you were a professional rugby player on a Sunday morning after a night out, you used to do what?
A little bit worse for wear. I'd stick on this on the telly and... yeah, it's amazing.
And cry.
Let's have a look and see why.
You made him cry.
The winner of Britain's Got Talent is Paul Potts!
We're right back there.
Well done.
15 years
I'm all
ago.
over it. I know. Can we go back?
I know, it was better than it was. Good morning, Paul Potts. How are you doing?
I'm good, but that makes me feel very old. I was in my mid-30s when I did that. And let's just say I'm not now.
Hey, listen, none of
you and us both.
Yeah, there we go. 2007, like it's a moment that is... For this century, it's culturally like a zeitgeisty moment. We all remember it. 193 million people have watched it on YouTube. Like living through it, it must have been something else.
It was kind of bizarre. I never imagined that when I flipped the coin, sat at home while I was doing work, that it would lead where it did. And I'm now incredibly grateful for that period, of course. And it's led me to do what makes me me, which for me is the ultimate definition of what success is. It doesn't matter what you do, what you get paid. If you're doing what completes you, then by definition, you're a success.
And what we didn't see in that clip, Paul, and what we watched earlier on, we watched it again, is you were very honest in the before you went out on stage, talking about your fears and how you weren't a very confident person. But then you're obviously confident enough in your ability to go on to a competition like that where you know Piers Morgan, who doesn't hold back his opinion, and Simon Cowell. So, I mean, what were the nerves like going out onto that stage in front of, and Amanda Holden as well?
Well, I wanted to turn back several times, especially as the previous act had been booed off. I was thinking, I don't want to be in that position. It was just, because singing something that's really well known in front of someone like Simon is always daunting. And I'd not really sung very much in the few years before because of illness and injury. And so I didn't know what would happen. And I hate being in that position of not knowing.
Oh, look at it there.
Yeah,
it's just
it
so
does.
fantastic.
It looks so cool.
What is it about Wales and opera singers? Like, are you just 10 a penny? Like, if you go down the road, you're like, yeah, my mate does that in the pub as well.
Well, my mum's from the Valleys. My mum was from the Valleys, and she was tone deaf, so it doesn't happen to us all.
Yeah, well, my wife is Welsh, and I shouldn't say she's tone deaf on live television, but not far off. You, of course, went
That's why she can listen to you.
Is that doghouse comfortable in there?
Yeah, I know. Hopefully she's sending the kids to school at the moment. You also performed for the Queen very soon after at the Royal Variety Show. I can't work it out. Is there a picture behind of you? Who are you shaking hands with there?
That's the Queen. That was the second time that I did a Royal Variety back in 2012, which was the centenary of the Royal Variety itself.
Wow, what was that like?
It's kind of strange. You kind of hope that you're not going to do a Mr. Bean and accidentally headbutt her when you.
But are you told what to do and what to say? Because you're not meant to speak to a royal first, right? So was there someone going, Jeannie Mackers, Paul, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this?
Well, there is kind of convention that you speak when you're spoken to and not otherwise. Okay. Prince Philip was always an interesting character. He was funny, and I think to all of us, the Queen was kind of the nation's granny.
Absolutely.
You're right. Yep. I mean, you saw Piers Morgan, I think, beside you in that picture, so you did well even getting a word in there. A lot of people who are on that show have come out recently and spoken out about, you know, it was glamorous on the television, but actually behind the scenes, it maybe wasn't as, as plain sailing as people would have thought. How was your experience?
Well, things were all great for me. I mean, it's different people experience things in different ways, and I can't speak for what people went through and on shows that I wasn't part of. And I think that it's difficult to say because I haven't experienced what they did.
Yeah.
Do you think they're coming? Because we've spoken to Marian Ryan about this, and she was on X Factor at the same year as, you know, One Direction and Little Mix were on it. And she's the same as you. She's always like, no, I appreciated everything. I felt like I was well taken care of. Is there something about being that bit older rather than being a teenager and kind of going, okay, I've worked in the real world. I've done, you know, my 9 to 5, and this is the extra slice.
I think, yes, that extra maturity can help. It can help you deal with it. But I think it's all also to do with what your expectations are. I went on the show with no expectations whatsoever. So I kind of just went with the flow. And that's how I continue to do things now.
Well, listen, you've been one of the real winners out of the show. There's no doubt about that. And something else that was a huge moment for you as well, that there was actually a movie made about your life. And James Corden, of all people, you know, he played you in that. Did you have any input in it? Did you get to meet James? How was that?
I got to meet him a few times. It was... You kind of think that they're going to wait till you're dead before they make a story about you. So I had to test my pulse several times to make sure that I wasn't dead. But I was really happy with how they made it a kind of feel-good comedy, because I didn't want it to be a blow-by-blow docudrama, because, you know, people need things to cheer them up, not to depress them.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Colin Meaney and James Corden, there's going to be a bit of fun in there.
Colin Meaney is your dad, Paul Potts. I mean, you're practically Irish now.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I think that I'm terrible for remembering names. I think the person who played my mum did an incredible job. My mum didn't completely agree with me, but I think Julie Walters did a great job.
She's like, Julie isn't as good as me, Paul. You better be happy that you've got me. It's only Julie Walters. That's amazing.
Tell us, you've got a new album out for Christmas. I'm sure people will be delighted that you're back out singing again.
But during the first lockdown, I did 4 months worth of performances every day with a full concert on a Sunday outdoors, because the weather actually held out really well that year. And I decided I'd record some of them. So I intended to do 12 to 16 12 to 16 tracks. In the end, over the space of a week, I recorded 41. So it's a double album that's out week Friday, so the 7th of October.
And all the studies that have been done with a bit of classical music, especially around Christmas time, bringing the stress levels down.
Oh, it's just what we need.
We'll have you crying. We'll play it every morning to have you crying.
That's going to be a Christmas present.
It's called Musica Non Prohibita. It's available to pre-order now, released on the 7th of October.
Is that Welsh, Paul?
No, it's Italian. It means music isn't prohibited, and it kind of harks back to that period where you saw the images from Italy, where the lockdown was far stricter than in the UK and Ireland, where you weren't even allowed to leave your home. So there were lots of singers of all styles, not just opera, that were singing from their apartment balconies, and it had that sense that music, lots of other things are forbidden, but music wasn't.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Paul Potts. It's been lovely to talk to you this morning.
And to you.
Cheers, thank you so much. Can you say anything in Welsh?
Shwmai. Diolch, Paul. There we go. That's my only Welsh.
What is it?
Thank you.
Diolch.
Yeah, diolch yn fawr. Still to come, we're going to be getting more of your reactions to this year's budget.
It's practically bilingual, lads. I will see you back here in Ireland AM very shortly.
Diolch.
Do you know someone who should be crowned an inspirational county hero? Together with Gala Retail, we're celebrating the achievements of others whose incredible efforts have had a real impact on our communities. Gala is gifting 26 county heroes with hotel stays worth €1,000 for every winner, be it the local charity fundraiser or sporting volunteer. We want to hear about your inspirational county hero. To nominate, simply tell us why they are so special in under 200 words on gala.ie/Inspiration Awards by Sunday the 2nd of October.
Hey, very welcome back and good luck with that. We're going to be going back to Deric very shortly. What about this one? Sarah sent in a message. My family does not benefit at all from this year's budget. I am married with 2 children, both toddlers. I have been unable to find childcare, so have not been able to return to work since 2020. We were a 2-income family, but now we're down to 1 income because of the lack of childcare. I welcome the reduction in the cost of childcare, but it means nothing to me because I can't get my kid in there.
No. That's terrible.
So the only thing they're getting is the home care tax credit is up by €100.
Yeah, and it's kind of like that whole GP. Like, it's a good gesture giving that out to the creches and stuff, but at the same time, if you can't get your kids into a creche, you can't go back to work.
Jim says the budget is nothing but a bunch of band-aids and will not help anything long term. The Mica scandal, which we were talking about earlier on as well, should be paid for by the companies that built those homes and the government that had no oversight of their construction. We were talking about that the companies who built those homes, surely they're the ones that should be fined.
That's fine. That was so sneaky, that little brick levy.
It's a concrete block levy. It's 10% is going on to the cost of concrete blocks.
Which will be passed on to the buyers.
So if you're building a house now, you're going to have to pay for that, not people who've already built their houses in the past.
No, and we always knew that the taxpayer was going to have to pay for the Mica redress scheme, which is in the billions, and that it was always going to be passed on to the taxpayer.
But that's not even the taxpayer. That's certain people, young people who are trying to build houses, trying to get on the property ladder. They're going to have to foot that bill.
Yeah, but it's not going to cover everything. The taxpayer are going to have to cover other amounts of it as well.
And so there'll be other stuff because of that. They said that was only 58 million or something. It's billions. The microdress group.
I know, exactly.
Well, it's only 58 million. Only 58 million.
But as Jim said, and I think a lot of people have said that over the time, it's companies who built them, right?
Yeah.
It's companies who supplied them and the taxpayer paying for it.
Why aren't they paying?
They're expecting more.
Deric is in Bray all morning and he's now in the company of a business owner to see how the budget has affected them. Let's go over to Deric.
Absolutely, we're getting live reaction here in the Grand End in Bray, County Wicklow, right across the Moyne. Donal Byrne from Butler and Barry joined us now, a local business owner here in the town. Donal, first up, does this budget go far enough?
Well, I think we're all still trying to digest it at this point. I think there's a little bit in it for everyone, but I'm not sure if there's enough for anyone, really.
Now, the main focus really, I suppose, from the government yesterday was that £1.2 billion package for businesses. It was the energy support scheme. Up to 40% now of your bill is covered.
Well, that's a help. We certainly welcome it. We would like to see the devil in detail, per se, but when we're dealing with bills that have almost trebled year on year, it's still a small amount in relation to the overall business costs.
And what are you talking now in terms of your energy bills? What are they per month?
Well, we're certainly, without getting into too much commercial sensitivity, we certainly would qualify for the support scheme on the basis of it being on 50% increase bills year on year. So our bills are very, very high.
Very, very high. Now let's get into that VAT rate, 9% for hospitality. That is expiring the end of February. Will you get a bounce out of that for next year? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think we're very disappointed in relation to the VAT rate as well, because we feel that we're still an industry still in recovery. We've been hammered really since March 2020. The VAT rate has been a massive help. The fact that it's only here till the end of February next year, and then from the 1st of March it increases by 50%, we are fearful that that will be a cost that businesses will not be able to absorb on top of everything else.
In terms of your staff then, like, are you facing job losses down the line? Is this where we're at with your businesses?
Well, we hope not, because fortunately we have a brilliant team of people across 3 venues, and they work really, really hard to provide a professional, friendly, efficient service, and they deliver on that daily. So we hope that people will continue to vote with their feet and support us.
Now, there was also allegations of price gouging in relation to that 9% VAT rate. Do you think that's why it was scrapped?
Well, I think it certainly didn't play out too well in the media, and it wasn't a great look for the hospitality and tourism industry as a whole. I think it was probably limited to a minority, and the majority kind of just tried to keep their businesses afloat and do the right thing by their staff and their customers.
And Donal, do you think this is going to make dining out now too expensive for people? They're just not going to bother supporting local businesses because that VAT rate is going to be gone?
Well, I hope not, and I hope that we might be in a different place next year in relation to our energy bills, that something might be done more long term in relation to help us with that. And certainly the temporary business energy support scheme, if that could be increased or extended, and again to lobby the government in relation to the VAT rate, because I think currently inflation is running at about 8.5%. We want to try and curtail that because it's not good for the economy overall. And realistically, and to be truthfully honest about it, businesses cannot afford to absorb that extra 50% increase, and it will be passed on.
All right, John, well, thank you so much for chatting to us here this morning. So there we have it, tight margins, a squeeze on staff, and a very turbulent winter ahead. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks very much, Deric.
Thanks very much, Deric.
A lot of business owners are thinking the exact same at the minute, that you know, there has been a lot of money put in there, but is it going to be enough, given that we don't know what's coming?
No, certainly don't. Now, coming up after the break, we're in the kitchen for a tasty chicken dish. We'll see you in a few minutes. With all the talk of yesterday's budget, we're just trying to do a stopwatch here, and it's like impossible. We're bringing you local cooking.
Sarah Butler, as if we don't need enough stress on this morning. We're here messing. Good morning to you. We've got a chicken tarragon.
Yes, we're making a lovely family dish, chicken tarragon. So what I've done to start off, I have my chicken breasts, and I've cut them into nice, good enough sized pieces, but you can have them whole or you can have bite-sized pieces, whatever you want. So I've just seasoned them with some salt and pepper.
Okay.
A little bit of taste.
Lovely.
And I'm just frying these off until they're golden. That'll only take a few minutes.
And did you flatten them down now? Did you try? Or did
I didn't flatten them this time.
Okay.
I just got a very sharp knife.
Yeah, just
sharp
cut slightly.
Just cut them in.
All right,
and at an angle, kind of come in.
Yeah, okay.
So we brown them off there. And next I have some garlic.
Okay, lovely.
So 1 clove of garlic, that's going in there with some mushrooms.
Okay.
Now I have these sliced quite thinly.
Yeah, nice.
For quick cooking time.
Of course.
Yeah, you can leave them whole or you can cut them in half. And a little olive oil. So while that's cooking away, I'm going to show you how I have the wedges that are in the oven.
Okay, right.
So the roosters are always great. And it's very simple. You just cut them in half again.
So just into quarters?
Into quarters,
All
but
right.
soak them in some water to get that starch out.
Okay.
And then rinse them.
When you cut them?
Well, when you have them all cut, rinse them, dry them. And then that's going to take all that starch out. So that's going to give you lovely crispy wedges.
And you wouldn't bring them up to just a light boil, no?
You can do that if you're short
just
on time.
to kind of soften them up a bit, yeah.
And then into the oven with some olive oil.
Okay.
So you'll get a crispier wedge if you dry them and take all that.
Yeah, you're just taking all that starch out.
Okay,
Well,
just dried like a paper towel or something like that, or anything.
Clean
that's
tea
there.
towel, yeah. But as Tommy said, if you're short in time, just get them on a parboil for 10 minutes, but don't overdo it, or they'll just fall apart.
Yeah,
And that's going to make it a lot quicker. And into the oven at 180 for maybe.
Because the
40
chicken,
minutes.
it's quite saucy, isn't it? So it'll go really well with the kind of
Really well, but you
wedges.
could have it with mash,
Yum. Yeah.
rice,
Okay.
pasta.
Yeah.
So a really versatile dish that comes in at around €8 to feed 4 people.
Yeah, so around €2
Yeah,
each. So that's
so
great, yeah.
It's great. You're using stuff that you have at home. I know the smell, that's the garlic and the salt and pepper. So once them mushrooms are beginning to brown, we want to thicken up the sauce, so we're going to add a little bit of flour. So that's your kind of homemade thickening agent. So just a little bit of flour in with that.
And is that any kind of just self-raising flour or anything?
I use self-raising.
Yeah.
Whatever you have at home is perfect. And then the stock.
Stock.
Is this a
Stock
chicken
in.
stock?
This is a chicken stock. Gradually add that so you don't get any lumps. We're going to gradually add that in.
Yeah, this is the big thing I find when you have the flour in there and it gets lumpy. Is there a secret to that? Or is
When
it
the
just
flour
kinda-
get lumpy, just gradually add it in.
Just slowly, is it?
Yeah, slowly, gradually add it in.
And let it just kind
And
of...
that will work away then.
There we go.
Okay, work
Well,
away.
it'll keep going anyway.
Go
We'll just pretend it's still really hot.
The L cooker's giving you trouble, is it?
No, we got it back
There
again.
you go.
Okay, so that's the stock in. And
Whack
then we're
it
going to
up,
add
whack
in
the heat up
cream.
there.
We're going to whack up the heat. And we have then the
Okay.
flavour is the next thing. So I have some tarragon here. It's pretty hard to get it fresh. So
Uh-huh.
you're using the dried one. Pop that in. And you can also use basil, whatever heat or herb you want to use. Pop that in. Fresh basil. Thyme would be a great one. You can already get the smell of that coming in.
Yeah, it smells so good.
perfect.
How long would it take then to kind of simmer down? Do you kind of is it
You can
better to leave it for a while
You can leave
and
it
just
for a while. That's
slowly
going to
do
make
it?
your chicken nice and tender.
Yeah.
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 So you can
Like
let it simmer away.
ideally, what would you be looking at?
Maybe 20 minutes.
Oh,
But if you want
really?
it at
Just
this
simmer
point,
it for 20 minutes, okay.
at this point, you could pop it into your slow cooker once it's all cooked, and you could leave it for the day.
And would you put it in the oven?
Yeah,
Could
you
you
can
put
pop
it
it in the oven. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No
So
problem.
once you get to this stage,
This stage, now I have some Parmesan cheese.
Oh yes, throw
oh,
it
that's
Again.
really thicken it up.
Optional, and a little lemon is great with anything.
Absolutely
chicken.
love Parmesan, you know.
So that's that. We're going to leave that to simmer away. I have some green beans. You can have any veg you want with that.
And how long would those potatoes been in now for
They've
your
been
wedges?
for about 40 minutes.
Oh, they've been in 40 minutes,
Yeah.
have they? Okay.
So they're nice and crispy. And
Yum.
as I said, have it with rice, pasta, whatever you want. So it's a great one.
Yeah.
It's nice and easy, isn't it, for kids
And especially
whatever
coming
else?
into winter,
yeah,
you want
yeah.
something nice and
And the kids
warm.
love the wedges. Like
Yeah,
well,
they
I
do.
love the wedges,
Yeah,
but my
mine
pair as well,
too.
honestly. When it's nice and
homemade
Keep you
crispy.
happy.
And then the kind of tarragon, the sauciness on the side.
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, and as I said, mix up those herbs. Try it with some fresh basil. It's going to give you a completely different taste.
And if you want to thicken it up even more, would you put a little more...
A little bit more flour,
flour
or if
in
you have
it.
corn flour, mix that with a little cold water, just a little, and gradually add that in.
gradually add it in.
So
Because I
I-
love the sauce really thick. Do you like it, or do you like it nice and...
yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, like, have you any tips for people trying to cook on a budget?
The best tip I can give would be to make a meal plan for the week.
Okay.
All right,
And
yeah.
plan what you're going to cook each day. Because you know yourself, you'll buy a shop and then you end up at the end of the week throwing half of it out. because you
It's
haven't-
why my wife will
And
never
have
let
an
me come
idea.
shopping with her.
Because what?
Because
You
I'll
buy
always
too much.
pick up stuff and go, oh, go on, we get
We
that.
get that.
And then
Yeah.
it gets wasted.
Get
The amount
wasted.
of
Or
food
if you're
waste,
buying
disaster.
if you're buying an ingredient, you can maybe not you're not going to use that whole thing, like say chilies or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
You can freeze that or incorporate it into another dish that week. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
yes.
Well,
So-
like you kind of say, you could have mash one day,
Yeah.
or you could have these wedges the next day. Loads of alternatives for it.
Are you going to have some, Tommy? Yes?
I sure am.
Sorry,
I
no.
like chicken tarragon, can't
Yeah.
beat
Out.
it.
And the little green beans with it and all.
Green beans. Have your little bit of veg. It's always a good one to bulk
Yeah.
up.
Lovely. Thank
There
you very
you go.
much, sir.
And get
Have
some
a
of that
taste.
sauce. So there you go.
That
Real.
looks delicious. Do you want to get a shot of that? There we go. Look at that.
No, I don't need to eat it.
Yeah, I know. Will you give a second now? We'll give you just a little shot there. Look at that. Isn't that lovely?
Come on.
There you go, then. There you go. Go on. So about €2 each, that's working out, which is great
Really
value
good
as
value.
well, yeah.
Gorgeous flavour.
And now what? I'll read and you can carry
Is
on.
that cream or milk? That's
cream, yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Or you can use
Taste
milk.
it.
You can use
taste
milk.
Full cream.
Full
Sarah
cream.
Butler.
Serve up mine there, Sarah, and we will still to come. Sister Act the musical has come to Dublin, and we'll be chatting to one of its stars, Lesley Joseph of Birds of a Feather fame. Love Lesley Joseph. Yay! Well done. Look at this, guys. Duffy Circus has come to Ireland AM. You're very welcome back to the show. We've lots in store in the final hour of the show. And as we said, yes, Duffy Circus here with us and be performing for us a little later on. And I hear they're looking for some new recruits. So, Tommy, me and you
ready
joining the circus.
Oh,
Will we
I better
run
not
away
do
to the
it.
circus, yeah?
I was going to try a bit of juggling, but I've just got in my ear, do not break
go on,
anything.
go.
Duffy Circus, how cool is that? I love The Greatest Showman as well.
You could have done the dancing bit. You can do the dancing bit. Come on.
I prefer to be
let's
juggling,
go.
to be honest with
We're going to try to get you to juggle something. Did you get? Come on, it's only a knick-knack. Try it.
Apples. Here we go.
Apples. Okay, here we
Right.
go.
Stephen.
You can't even catch a blooming
Right,
apple.
here we go.
Hey! Well done.
Right, coming up next, we're going to be meeting Birds of a Feather star Lesley Joseph to talk about her starring role in Sister Act the musical, which has come to Dublin.
Lads, he's all singing, he's all dancing. What can't the fella do? He's so good. Can you catch it in your mouth?
Read an
Juggle
auto
and do it.
cue.
Do you know what else we're going to be doing in just a little while? How you can keep your energy consumption and bills as low as possible. We have no idea. We're going to be finding out which appliances are sucking the life out of your wallet in just a little while.
Now, Deric is in Bray all morning. Deric, what are the reactions you are getting? Oh, look at that, it's gorgeous. To reactions to the budget.
Or Tommy, yes. It's a bright and sunny start here in Bray, County Wicklow, but as we saw there earlier on with Donal Byrne from a local restaurateur here in the town, the squeeze is certainly on in terms of those rising energy prices and the expiration of that 9% VAT rate on hospitality. We're going to be getting more local reaction from a renter and a pensioner into this hour. So lots to come here from Bray, County Wicklow over the next few while.
Thank you so much, Deric. And of course, we haven't really discussed about the Nord Stream pipeline and Ursula von der Leyen calling it sabotage as to what happened to that area yesterday.
Let's move on.
There's a lot going on.
Now, still all those texts coming in about the budget. And we have one from Brendan, and you have some information on this, wherein Brendan says, saying that rent increases in rent pressure zones in Dublin are capped at 2% is a farce. My daughter is a PhD student on a very limited income. Her landlord has presented them with a 15% rise in rent, regardless of the rules. When needing a landlord's reference at the end of the year and with shortage of properties, they can't do anything but pay.
And last year, it was in December, and this is the tip of the iceberg according to charities. They prosecuted or they fined up to 250,000 28 landlords who, in rent pressure zones, had just hiked the rents up.
And out of all of them, 28 were fined.
And there was
they're saying that it's happening. The charities are like, this is happening everywhere. This is the tip of the iceberg. We need the RTB to do more.
There was a girl on the Tonight Show last night as well, and she spoke about being in Galway.
Yeah.
And she said that the pressure to get a place, that she actually has student accommodation, and she's just going to have to hang on to it no matter what the price. Because she can't afford to go and say, I'm not moving there because I'll go somewhere else, because there's literally nowhere else to go.
She stayed over summer and commuted to Tullamore so that she could keep her place.
Keep the text coming in. We will try and read out as many as possible. But Deric is back in Bray this morning getting more reaction to the budget. Deric.
So, Jacob, how's the budget affecting you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a help in certain ways. So I'm renting in Bray, so a bit of help in that sense, and also married. So I think in terms of married couples and the tax bracket as well, it's a bit of a help in that sense too. But still, just with the increases in just electricity and fuel at the moment, it's really difficult. So a bit more help in that area would come a long way.
Well, the thing I'm not happy with is they're giving the money for the electric and all. As far as I'm concerned, they should have put a freeze on it. And that everything else I'm happy with. Don't mind anything else.
They didn't go far enough with it.
very poor because everything has gone up. Like if a man gets a car there was paying a taxi €100, he was taking 44 out of the 100 tax. So they're only giving you what you've lost.
So I know people with minimum wage are getting a bit of a pay rise and also a tax decrease and also electricity credits for people who are struggling with paying their bills. So handy.
Oh, she
tuned in, didn't she? People there, Bray.
Well, should we there's one text in as well I have to read as well. From Ger, he's 28-year-old singleton, qualified carpenter, self-employed, and there is nothing for me. I can't afford to buy a home. So he said, I'm sorry, Ireland, I'm going to miss you because I am out of here. I'll be sure to try and watch you on Australian television.
I think there's a lot of people that are going to be doing the
and
exact
a fully
same thing.
qualified carpenter where you think, my God, he'd be
Flush.
out the door with work. But just because, like, he could be that and still have nowhere to live.
28-year-old single person.
Doctors, the whole lot.
28-year-old single person should be able to buy a house.
Whoopi Goldberg's Sister Act. This is a bit different. It's got a musical makeover. We're going to be finding out what audiences can expect. If you can buy a ticket, that's next. Based on the hit movie starring Whoopi Goldberg, Sister Act, the musical, is the story of nightclub singer who witnesses a murder and hides in a convent to avoid the mob.
I love it so much. A new production is currently playing in Dublin, starring Lesley Joseph of Birds of a Feather fame, of course. But before we chat to the lovely Lesley, let's see her in action.
Who will help us in our hour of need? Where, oh, where is our salvation?
Joining us now from Sister Act, the musical, of course, is Lesley Joseph. Good morning to you, Lesley.
Good morning. Do you know, I get quite teary watching that. I mean, it's one of those really joyful shows, but it's also quite emotional. And because at the end, it's all about sisterhood and community, and there's some really beautiful scenes at the end. And I think at the end of lockdown, and also for me, you know, I've done panto since lockdown, but not a big musical. So this is like the first one back. And it's such a lovely company. And it's quite an emotional experience.
Isn't it? It look like in the doom and gloom that we have these days, even just a clip like that, whenever you go out of, when you come out, I'd say you're just on cloud nine.
Well, I can't tell you. I mean, at the end, we come down in sheer sparkles all over, and the audience are on their feet, and then they're all doing this as we're doing it on stage, and it's just like you sort of feel like you're at a pop concert almost, but you're actually doing a musical, and it is an extraordinary musical. And of course, Alan Menken, who wrote it, who did Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Little Mermaid, he came to see it. He loved it so much he came back. I mean, he came twice, and the lyricist, and that, you know, that is such praise, so we're very proud.
Because it is one thing from the movie, you know, your Mother Superior, we all remember Maggie Smith being Mother Superior in the movie. The music's different in the musical.
It is different, yes, but, I mean, Alan Menken music you cannot top. I think maybe a couple of people might say, oh, I loved the film music, but that's a sort of pop concert with a story in a way. It's a very, very different experience. This is amazing music. Written by Alan Menken.
Am I right in saying that Jennifer Saunders, though, played that role in the UK version?
She did. Well, the UK version. I mean, we're going back to the UK, obviously. So what happened, originally it was going to be Whoopi and Jennifer, and I was going to do the tour. And then Whoopi wanted to go to Australia and Canada. So the producer said, well, wouldn't it be lovely if you got to know Whoopi, play another part in town, then you can get to know her, and then you can go to Australia and Canada with her. And then, of course, lockdown happened, so 2 years later. And then, so in town, I played Sister Mary Lazarus, who was the rapping nun.
Yes!
Nice!
I enjoyed very much, because I got to do my rapping.
Cool, yeah.
And all of that. And then I came back. So this last week, has been quite intense because we didn't really get it. You know, normally when you rehearse, you put the building blocks in place.
Yeah.
We went straight in. And Tuesday night, we opened with everybody in different places, a new show, but it went whoosh.
Wow.
And, you know, all credit to this company. They are superb.
But it's so energetic. Like, the amount of people that you have on stage, and it's hardcore for a couple of hours. Would you be sitting there going, lads, I just need to know,
I am in my 70s. But, in fact, I could be your mother. It's only you were telling your mother. Anyway, the thing is that you get into it and the music lifts you. And, I mean, we do warm-ups every night, both vocally and physically, and that keeps you really going. And it does, you go onto a show plane, if you know what I mean. And you don't even feel tired.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you suddenly go, I need a drink.
Like absolutely.
Yeah.
But you must be fit anyway, because, of course, you did Strictly Come Dancing as well.
I did.
And that is a huge physical challenge. How did you cope with that?
I don't know. Look, my mother was 103 when she died. She played tennis in her 90s and she did yoga all the time and line dancing at 96. I walk everywhere, I exercise, I keep fit a lot. So
What is the training like for it?
What is the
training like for a show like Strictly Come Dancing?
Well, yeah, it is hardcore. But I used to keep saying to Anton, come on, let's do this again, let's do this again. It's just something I'm used to.
Yeah.
I mean, when I do pantomime, I do 2 shows a day. And if I don't do a matinee, I think, oh, that's weird. I haven't done a matinee today. I should be doing something. It's something I'm used to. I mean, I know there will come a time when my body suddenly says, OK, Lesley, now, take it easy. But I just haven't got there yet. But I walk everywhere, and I love walking, and I just keep fit. And I eat really carefully. I eat properly. So, yeah, just... And I love what I do. Like, you love what you do. So if you love it,
Does he? He does. He does sometimes. He used to before I sat down here.
I'm enjoying this, Lesley. Absolutely.
Well,
yeah, just...
Like, the very career that you have had.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, you know, we all know, of course, Soaring from Birds of a Feather, but, you know, you've worked with famed theatre director Peter Hall. You know, you've done Shakespeare, you've done so much.
And Mel Brooks. I had 3 months with Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks, Young Frankenstein.
And he sent me the most divine video when I left. I love you, Lesley. I don't want to marry you, but I love you. I mean, it was... amazing. And then, of course, I walked to Rome and met the Pope. I had half an hour with
you're
the Pope.
throwing in Mel Brooks and the Pope.
Sorry,
now.
I know. No, but if you said to me, what are the 3 great moments in your career? I mean, Strictly would sort of be just outside that. It would be Birds of a Feather for 33 years, which is still on. Working with Mel Brooks for 3 months and doing Young Frankenstein.
What was that like initially then?
It was... When I first met him, I got very drunk in the Savoy Hotel because I never met him when he actually said, you know, I'm offering you the part.
Yeah.
He'd seen a video of me. I was so scared. I mean, he's a legend. I got very drunk, and Ross Noble, who'd arrived, didn't have proper clothes to wear, so he stopped and bought a suit.
Ross Noble, the comedian who
played Igor, left the thing on, the tab on and everything. He was sitting in a suit he'd never worn before. I was sitting having had 3 champagne cocktails. In the end, Mel came in. He said, what do you want to drink? And I said, I'll have some champagne, please. He said, you're killing me, you're killing me. So I said, it's all right, Mel, I'll pay. He said, no, the one thing I got is money. And then, so I had another champagne cocktail. And then I ended up showing him a picture in me in my underwear backstage at Strictly. Now, why? I had too much to drink, and I don't know whether I wanted to impress him, seduce him.
Well, you
not
went
a
all the
clue.
right way.
So, but then when we got to rehearsing it, we had 2 weeks with Susan Stroman, who again is a Broadway legend.
Yeah.
She was directing it. He came in for a run through, and we sat and we read it. And he stopped us on nearly every line. And I then heard that if you didn't like what you were doing, sometimes you disappeared. And I got criticism on nearly all of it. And in the end, I just swore and stood up and said, right, and sang the song. And from then on, we were best friends. And I got nominated for an Olivier. So there you go.
Which was unbelievable. Now, that's up there.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just thinking, I'm assuming when you met the Pope, you didn't show him a picture of you in your knickers.
Or ask him for a glass of
But I
champagne.
did bless him. I mean, I'm afraid when I first met him, we had to introduce ourselves. Oh, there I am. And I said, hello, I'm Lesley Joseph, I'm 72, and I've just walked 100 kilometres on the Via Francigena, and I feel incredibly rejuvenated, both emotionally, spiritually, and physically. All I was supposed to say was, hello, Lesley Joseph. That's all I was supposed to say. So I did this, and he burst out laughing. And he said, you don't look 72. And I said, I know, I don't, do I? Anyway, we then had half an hour chat. Then he came round, and with everybody, he hugged me, he kissed me, he gave me a medal to celebrate 6 years in the papacy. Then he burst out laughing again and said, you still don't look 72, at which I put my hand on his and said, bless you.
Okay, he doesn't get that happening too often, I don't think.
Really? I mean, everybody just went, Lesley,
It's a saying. Francis, do you want to go part-time? I can do half the blessing for you. It'll be fine. It'll be grand.
But, you know, we all got outside and burst into tears. And we went what I call backstage in the Vatican. And it was just 8 of us, everybody different religion. And we just walked, and we'd slept in a different bed for 16 nights, walking the Via Francigena. And then we had half an hour with the Pope. So my career has been very varied. And now I'm playing a Roman Catholic nun. And it's a wonderful experience.
Blessing everybody.
I am.
Bless you all.
Bless you.
Listen, Lesley, it's an absolute pleasure to have you in here
Lovely
as well.
to be here.
The show is available. It's out in the Bord Gáis Theatre at the minute, and it's going to run through to Saturday the 1st of October as well. And boy, looking for that clip, it's going to be a pretty exciting one to be a part of. Lesley Joseph, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bless the Pope, I love it.
Bless you. Lots more still to come here on Ireland Day, and back after this short break.
Fancy a trip of a lifetime to Orlando, Florida? Now is your chance. We are teaming up with Tour America and United Airlines to offer a family of 4 a chance to win a thrilling holiday to Universal Orlando Resort's 3 amazing theme parks, where you'll encounter magical creatures in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, join forces with the Transformers Autobots, and journey through Jurassic World's Velociraptor paddock. This amazing prize includes 3 park explorer tickets and a 7-night stay at Universal's Endless Summer Resort, Dockside Inn and Suites. Plus, to celebrate serving flights to and from Ireland for over 20 years, United Airlines will be providing return flights to make your trip unforgettable. For your chance to win, just answer this question. Which state is Orlando in? A, Florida, or B, Texas? To enter, call 1550 999 319 or text TRIP to 57199. Best of luck.
Welcome back. Now, I know it goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Energy prices, they've shot up along with the bills.
They certainly have. But what if we could break down the appliances that's costing us the most money and turn them off? And Deric Cassidy from bonkers.ie is here to give us a lowdown on what we should be turning off or what we should be looking at. Good morning to you. So, what are the appliances that are costing us the most in our home?
It's the dryer, right? We all think it's the dryer.
Yeah, no, it is the dryer, and a lot of people probably know that. I mean, if you're putting on the dryer now with prices at the record levels that they're at, it's going to cost you probably well over €1 for every hour that you have it on. So I'd say to people, obviously try, not use the dryer where you can, and if you can
get the clothes horse out.
Get the clothes horse out, but also you can buy these things called dryer balls, which are like tennis balls, and if you put them into the dryer, they can reduce drying time by maybe up to 25%. And I would say to people as well, don't overload the tumble dryer. So sometimes there's a feeling that if you put everything in, it's a false economy because it's
I actually did that the other day, and it took nearly 3 hours to dry the stuff because I literally loaded it in.
Yeah, and as well, it's not good for the clothes as well. So where you can, avoid using the dryer.
What else do we have? What other appliances?
The fridge is probably one that isn't something that comes, kind of to people first and foremost when they think about appliances. But remember that the fridge is running all day, every day. So it actually does end up using probably more electricity than you would think. At current rates, maybe a tenner a month, maybe slightly more if you have an old fridge. Doesn't seem like a huge amount.
But you can't turn it off.
No, you can't. But there's things that you can do to make the fridge run more efficiently. And the first thing would be don't put hot food straight into the fridge. So if you're maybe doing some batch cooking, which lots of us might be, to try and save on lunches when we're at work. Let it cool down before you pull it into the fridge, the freezer, because then obviously the fridge and the freezer has to work extra hard to cool it down. So that's probably the big no-no. And then try not open and close the fridge too many times. I know we know that. I know we have to take things out.
I know we say it all the time, but and then you leave the door open as you go off and do something like that, and seemingly that's really bad for it as well.
Yeah, you do, but put it this way, for every maybe 10 seconds that you have the fridge door open, it takes another 3/4 of an hour to cool down to its original temperature. And during that time, it's drawing lots of energy, and this is where the costs go up.
So for every 10 seconds. So if you open it and you've gone off to cut and you've...
But every time I go into... It's a habit. My father used to do it as well. You walk into the kitchen, open the fridge, put on the kettle.
And leave the
my
fridge
kitchen
door.
is practically my sitting room, so it's just all the time. I don't leave it open, I'm just saying I open it every time. Open the fridge, put on the kettle. People do that. It's force a habit. People do it all the time.
Yeah.
They
Your
won't take
milk's
anything
in the
out.
fridge or something like that.
I'm not even having a cup of tea. It's just I just
Why'd you
automatically
open the fridge?
Because it's just something you do. Is there anything in there that wasn't there 5 minutes ago? So here, let's look at some of these costs. The immersion is $2.58 for 2 hours to fully heat a 120-litre tank. That's a lot of money.
Heating water is really, really expensive, and it's not something, again, that people maybe think about. They might think about, you know, the tumble dryer when they look at electricity prices, but heating water is really, really expensive.
Yeah.
Don't waste it. Don't leave the hot tap running.
And do you know what's great value? TV. Watching your television. 34 cents for 4 hours, guys. You couldn't... I mean, it's just such good value.
Now, when
so we had them all there a second
we're
ago.
speaking about cooking. The microwave is actually a very cost-effective gadget.
Yes, it is. So if you can use the microwave before using the oven is another big appliance that uses a lot of electricity. So if you're doing, let's say, a Sunday roast and you have the oven on for about an hour, that's going to cost you over €1. Or put it another way, for maybe every hour that you have the oven on, that's like maybe a 15-minute electric shower. So it does use a lot of electricity. So just kind of, you know, cook clever. I'd always say to people as well, unless you're baking, because that's different, you need very, very specific temperatures, but there's no need to turn on an oven for 10 minutes, let it heat up with nothing in it. Just turn it on, maybe let it heat up for 1 minute and then put something in.
Preheated oven.
You don't need to.
I know, but they do sort of say
unless
preheated
you're
oven.
actually baking and it's something really, really specific, pulling in, you know, your chicken, your potatoes or whatever.
Put it straight in.
Put it in.
Buy a toaster bag for your toaster. Don't turn on the oven for your toaster cheese sandwich.
It's like turning on the electric shower. When you preheat the oven, it's like turning on the electric shower for maybe 2 minutes and then saying, I'm not going to go in for 2 minutes. You wouldn't do that. You just don't do it with the oven either.
Oh, Catherine Layton won't enjoy that. Now, can we talk about vampire electricity? So what is it? Because we're all guilty of this.
Yeah, so that's when you have appliances plugged in and they keep on drawing electricity. So it's often when they're in standby mode. Now, I have to say the issue isn't nearly as big as it used to be because more modern appliances are a lot better. But I would say to people, particularly if you're going away for the weekend or if you're going away on holidays and you're not going to be in the house for a while, just unplug absolutely everything.
Just go around and unplug everything. But you see, I'm always afraid to unplug the computers and the laptops in case I'd never get out and back.
You wouldn't be able to turn it back on again. You'd be like,
obviously make sure you have stuff saved before you do that. Now, I wouldn't say if you're just going to bed at night to unplug everything, but certainly if you're going away for a few days. But certain things such as maybe, you know, PlayStations, your computer, I would try and plug them at night as well because they can begin to use a bit of electricity.
Plugging out chargers. You know, people have chargers plugged in all the time.
Absolutely,
Plug them out.
And it's better from a safety point of view as well. But just quickly on maybe computers and laptops, with more of us working from home, we're using our computers way more than we would have done at home.
Yeah.
So that's an appliance that's going to be adding to our bills that it wouldn't have maybe before COVID when we were doing all of our computer work in the office. So a computer running for maybe, you know, 8 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week, that's maybe €7-8 a month on your bill, €16 every 2 months. So just mind, you know, that usage as well.
And what about smart meters?
Yes.
And people saying that, oh, this is a great way of saving money, but then we've heard that you can get a smart meter and it's actually costing you more.
Yeah, so I think smart meters are ultimately a really, really good idea. And one of the benefits of smart meters is that you can get way more data around your energy usage. It also means as well that your meter can be read remotely. So at the moment, we have this really, you know, archaic situation where some strange man or woman has to come to your house. Or, you know, they climb over the fence to try and read your meter. The problem with smart meters is that when you sign up for a smart meter, you're supposed to sign up for a smart tariff.
Yeah.
Some of those smart tariffs are not great value. And if you're careful, or if you're not careful, you'll actually end up spending more than you otherwise would have. So I think what needs to happen is the energy regulator, the CRU, and the energy suppliers really need to sit down and work this out and come up with much better plans. Because, like I said, for some people, moving to a smart meter will actually cost you money. But I would recommend that people get them installed, allow the ESB to do its work. But I probably, for most people, I wouldn't sign up for one just yet.
You don't have to sign up if you get a smart meter. You can stay on your tariff.
Yes.
Like, as we know right now.
Because it goes into new houses, don't they?
Yeah,
it does, yes.
So you have it anyway.
Yeah.
So does that mean you have to accept that?
Well, you...
then you sign up to a tariff, right?
Yeah, you do. Like, you can get the smart meter installed and put in, but then you don't have to activate it. You don't have to turn it on. So you can still have maybe a normal tariff or maybe a day-night tariff.
Yeah.
And then I would say just then wait for maybe a year or so until better value smart tariffs come out. Because once you move to a smart tariff, you can't move back. That's the problem.
And that's one thing I think people really need to look at that and look at what the standard unit pricing is for that, because it can be very high.
And in particular, I would say if you have a day-night meter and you use a lot of electricity at night, from my analysis, there are people in particular who could do quite poorly by moving to a smart tariff.
I know we don't have time, but you were saying it doesn't make any difference not putting on your stuff between 5 and 7 in the evening. You're saving the grid, but not saving money.
Unless you have a smart tariff. Otherwise, it's not making any difference. No.
So we're all doing our washing and our dishes at 11 o'clock at night, think we're saving money, we're not.
Deric Cassidy from Bonkers.ie, thank you so much.
Welcome.
We appreciate that. Thanks so much.
Now, after the break, we've something completely different in store. Reveal all, Tommy.
You're not wrong, guys. I'm in it. I'm in it. I'm joined by some of the incredible entertainers of Duffy's Circus. They're going to be giving us a masterclass after the break. You don't want to miss it. Amazing. I love
it. Performance. We're loving that. David Duffy, good morning to you.
Alan.
Thanks for joining us and all your crew here this morning, because that looks amazing. That's the way we should start every Ireland AM.
I love it. I love it. But listen, this is Duffy Circus. You're back on the road again, and people are delighted to come and see the entertainers and performances.
It's brilliant to be back. I mean, after the year and a half of COVID and everything, just to get back doing what we do best, it's the best feeling.
And you're the greatest showman, leading the troops.
I wouldn't have said that. My dad was the greatest showman, and will always be the greatest showman.
And unfortunately, he passed this year. But I mean, he did see us back on the road again.
Dad seeing us back on road, and that was so really important, Alan.
How long has Duffy's been going?
We've been going since the 1850s, and it's been handed down from generation to generation since then.
And I know your sons are involved in it as well.
My boys have taken over now.
Does anybody, does ever get a stranger with them and go, no, we've had enough? It's in the blood. Is it really in the blood?
It is in the blood, but like they do say that every day.
Come on, can we have a go? There's a limbo here. Are we going to have a go at something?
So, I mean, what have you got in the circus? I mean, there's loads.
Well, this is only this is just a taster.
Of so much that you have.
It's a terrific show this year.
Right.
It really is the greatest show.
Right, David, what do we do? Just the limbo.
Okay,
come over here.
No, we'll let you do it, Tommy.
Okay.
You're going to try... Down.
Head back.
Hey! Not bad at all, Tommy.
Go on.
I don't think Here, Hannah, give me a hand.
He just wants carried.
You ready? Whoa.
Can you guys go extra low? Can you put it down lower?
Let's see.
Put it down really low, lads, okay? Okay, go ahead.
Can you do this?
Okay, go ahead.
Watch this. Come on. Oh,
no way.
Look at that.
What?
Now,
that was amazing.
Tommy, you're on there.
Right, come on.
If Tommy Bow can do this, he's joining Duffy's Circus. Nearly there, go on. I mean, David, as you said, you are back you're back around the country. So where you're in Lucan at the moment?
We start in Lucan tonight at Sarsfield GAA. Next week we're down to the racecourse in Wexford, Beehive in Wicklow, and then tickets have gone on sale already for our Christmas show
in Tallaght
Stadium again. So
it's amazing to get it back. It really is.
Brilliant.
And I've actually been to Duffy Circus, and it's such a spectacular show.
It is, yeah. This year's show has been really super.
How many are involved in it?
There's 25 actually in the performance, but all told there's 50 of us.
And I think a lot of people would see with circuses, like there's no animals involved in this. This is just pure acrobats, a whole lot of entertainment.
Yeah, this year, like since COVID, all our animals are all back at the farm.
Yeah.
So they're all being looked
But I mean,
after
the lighting effects, and you have the big wheel thing, and there's just so much. It's like it's incredible.
We've really evolved.
Yeah.
And as you say, with the laser show and all the lighting effects and the sounds and the like the whole production.
Here she is. She's going to join the circus.
There you go. That's just what we were missing.
Have a go here, Murren. Right. Come on. Can you have a go?
Well, look at it. She can do it. Come on, go on this side. They're on this side. The lads will help you, Murren. The lads will help you.
The lads will help you.
Come on.
Oh, Janie!
There you go.
There we go.
David Duffy.
Oh, can I get more clapping for doing nothing? Thank you.
DuffyCircus.ie.
At DuffyCircus.com.
DuffyCircus.com. All the information there. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to leave you now to leave you what you do best, because this is what we see, a great performance from David and all the gang from Duffy Circus.
I see it in your eyes. You believe that lie, that you need to hide your face, afraid to step outside. So you lock the door, but don't you stay